We have another 25 minutes to do business. Welcome to Business Incorporated, and here's what we have prepared for you. In Zimbabwe, in Egypt, we see a second time this year there's going to be a fuel hike. And in Zimbabwe, the first lithium production is about to begin. And cryptocurrency is gaining attention in Ghana. Regulations to begin later on this year. Welcome to the program. I'm Amy John Mekwan. We start as usual with what's going on with oil prices. It edged lower on Friday, heading for a weekly loss of around 3% after the IEA forecast that a growing glut and U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed to meet again to discuss the war in Ukraine. Trump and Putin agreed on Thursday to another summit on the war in Ukraine to be held in the next 2 weeks in Budapest. The surprise development came as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was headed to the White House on Friday to push for more military support, including U.S.-made long-range missiles, which Washington pressured India and China to stop buying Russian oil. Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian refineries and the threat of secondary sanctions on buyers of Russian oil, such as India and China, set a floor under the market, but this could now change, according to observers. So for this week, the decline was also partly due to rising trade tensions between the U.S. and China, and we've seen that. So we see the price this afternoon has dropped lower than what it was in the morning. It's now at $60.35 for Brent after losing 1.16%, and WTI is also down more than 1% and steadied at $58.78 a barrel. Metals now, gold surged past $4,300 an ounce. Remember about this time yesterday, we're talking about just about 4,200 plus. Now it's more than 4,300. It's headed for its biggest weekly gain since December 2008 as geopolitical and economic uncertainty along with growing U.S. rate cut bets drove investors to the safe haven. So we see spot gold 0.2% in the green, $4,335.87. U.S. gold is 0.1% up, $4,348.90. Spot silver is, however, down 0.5% down, $53.96, and platinum is 3.7% in the red, $1,688. Palladium is also more than 3% in the red, $1,629. For that. At this time, gold is set for a gain of about 8.1% so far, just this week. And then gold had temporarily been on track for its biggest gain since September 2008, when the collapse of Lehman Brothers fueled the global financial crisis. And so we see gold is the thing to look at this time. And to one of those leading stories we told you about, Zimbabwe's first lithium sulfate processing plant is set to commence production, marking a major milestone in the country's effort to add value to its vast lithium resources. The facility, developed by Premier African Minerals in partnership with Chinese investors, is located in the Midlands province and is expected to process lithium concentrate into battery-grade lithium sulfate, a key component in electric vehicle and renewable energy batteries. Authorities say that the project aligns with the government's policy to promote local mineral beneficiation and reduce the export of raw lithium. Once fully operational, the plant is projected to boost export earnings, create jobs, and strengthen Zimbabwe's position as a key player in the global clean energy supply chain. And Egypt has increased fuel prices for the second time this year as the government continues to adjust domestic energy costs in response to rising global oil prices and weaker local currency. According to a statement from the Ministry of Petroleum, the price of 95-octane gasoline went up to 14.75 Egyptian pounds for a litre from 13.50, while 92-octane and 80-octane grades also saw increases. Diesel prices remained unchanged to cushion transportation and food costs. The move comes as Egypt works to gradually phase out fuel subsidies and align domestic prices with international market trends under its ongoing economic reform program. The latest adjustment is expected to help ease fiscal pressure, but may also add to inflationary concerns in the North African country. And in Tanzania, the government will, from the first day in December, enforce a new regulation obliging all goods imported into mainland Tanzania to have their trademarks formally recorded with the Fair Competition Commission, that's the FCC. The requirement comes under Section 11A of the Merchandise Marks Act, as amended by the Finance Act 2025, and the accompanying Merchandise Marks Regulations 2025. This regulatory change is aimed at bolstering intellectual property protection and strengthening combat of counterfeits and infringing goods. By requiring advanced recordation, the government seeks to enable customs to more easily verify the legitimacy of trademarks on imports. Let's head to the markets now and see what the numbers look like. Nigerian stock market is looking close to 149,000, perhaps. Since we got this number, perhaps we have even hit 149, hopefully, because we see here it's looking really close. 148,966.55, up 0.41%. Intraday, these numbers were picked at about 11 a.m. So perhaps we have better results. We'll see that at the close of trade tonight. In Johannesburg, it's actually in the red. More than 1% in the red is what we see. And that's in Johannesburg. And then in Egypt, it's closed for Friday, but it closed in the positive. And the Nairobi Stock Exchange closed very green at almost 2.5% green. Now let's head back to Nigeria and see what's happening there at this time. But we know that that number that we saw getting close to 149 was because of stocks like Boa Foods, Vitafoam, Dangote Cement. They contributed majorly to that. Insurance index was also up at intraday. Meanwhile, First Holdco, Fidelity, GTco have shed some points, continuing the trend that they closed with yesterday. But let's have Dr. Peter Abe now join us to tell us perhaps if he has fresh numbers, updates from what we already have. Hi, Dr. Abe. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon and thanks for having me.
Great. So we took this number a couple of 2 hours ago, I believe. What's it looking like now? We hit the 149,000 level.
Well, yeah. So the figure hit 149,000 points, but just stabilized around that. Currently has gained 39 basis points. That's 0.39% at the moment. So it's not far from where you got your figure earlier today. But I mean, if you ask me, the industrial contributed to that again we have seen so far, like you alluded to, and just marginal gain in banking, 0.2% from banking, while oil and gas has lost 0.11% at the moment. In the industrial, that is WAPCO, basically in the industrial contributed to that, and just some few other names like Danksem. You mentioned Danksem. The price has not changed, but we saw Danksem trading over 600 naira at the moment. So I mean, those are the activities we are seeing currently on the NGX.
And the banking stocks, they used to carry the shine, but in recent times, I mean, we see profit taking. Yesterday, First Holdco and GTco, they closed in the negative, and they're following that trend. What's happening? Anything happening around that counter?
Well, I mean, like you said, the banks had their shine last year when they had most of these gains from FX revaluation, but that wasn't the case again this year. I mean, from the half-year numbers we have seen so far, that's moderated. We are not seeing those gains from FX. And also, I mean, if you look at it's more like a zero-sum game. So while the banks are not having this revaluation gain, the consumer names and industrial names, they've started cleaning up their books, raised capital, and they are looking a bit good. So investors are really moving their money, so to say, though you expect banks to keep printing money, but what really gave them that huge profit last year wasn't there again. So that's interest really reduced, but more interest on the side of consumer and industrial. And because they are trying to new capital have been raised, and also net profits, we are expecting them to have more positive net assets as well at the end of the year. So that will look good for consumer and industrial. But banking, I think, will just be probably, if not a reduction, it will be flat to their performance that they had last year.
What about insurance?
Well, you from the law, so to the bill that's proposed bill for the insurance. I think the interest we have started seeing on the insurance, and first the capitalization, and also most of these new insurance policies that's being will be introduced. I think people are saying that the insurance companies will start making good money. So that's also has been spurring activities from the insurance. There are new recapitalization, also new policies that will be released. Those factors that are helping insurance names to be having good interest at the moment.
So we're gunning for the best performing markets for the year. Do you see us hitting that?
Well, nothing is impossible. I mean, if we saw good rally earlier this year, especially mid-year, especially when we saw the H1 numbers from consumer and industrial. The opinion is that will continue into the end of the year. Possibly people will also start taking a position from, let's say, from November to December ahead of the 2025 numbers, and also the corporate action that we'll be expecting from all these names. So I think all this will help shape activities in this on the NGX, and we believe it's going to be positive. We may not have it huge because we still have like 3 months after the year end to have the numbers, but I think we'll start seeing the build-up from this year into the new year 2026.
So from your interactions and the numbers that you have, which of the markets seems to be catching investors' interest more at this time, fixed income or the stock market?
Well, if you look at the interest rates, so to say, is a bit low or coming lower, especially from the inflation number we saw, was it yesterday or the day before here? So you can imagine people will start looking for alternative investment. I think equity is a good place for them. So we may not start seeing it maybe now, but I think we'll start seeing more participation from equity, while fixed income with the lower interest rate coming, maybe in a couple, maybe once we have the MPC, probably there may be a reduction. So that may shift interest from fixed income and to alternative investment like equities.
So I mean, looking at the performance of the industrial goods, are we looking at a positive close today?
Yes, we expect that to continue. We just have about 45 minutes to close of the market. So that's we believe we continue, and we also help to sustain the gain that we have seen so far. It's Friday, so expectedly activities will start winding down. So that's we just become flat into the end of the session from here.
All right, Dr. Peter Abbey, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's look at other markets now. Ahead to the Middle East. It's a red market for the Middle East today. Remember, it's just 2 markets that trade on Fridays. So from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, they are red. They close red. In the intraday, they are red. 5,999.16 for Dubai, and then 10,101.07 for the Middle East. The other two markets closed on Friday, but they closed mixed. Saudi Arabia closed positive 0.12, while Qatar closed also positive 1.47 at the end of yesterday's trade. Moving to the United States, where stock futures edged lower after the previous session saw a sell-off fueled by concerns about regional banks' loan practices. So we see the Dow Jones in the red, 0.65%, S&P also in the red, and Nasdaq in the red at this time. In after-hours trading yesterday, Interactive Brokers Group fell more than 5% despite the reporting strong quarterly results, and Oracle also slipped 4.7% after the cloud computing giant gave analysts its long-term financial outlook. Drug makers Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk also moved notably lower after President Donald Trump, during a briefing on fertility treatment, suggested the administration was negotiating with much lower prices for their blockbuster obesity drugs. Each of the major U.S. stock indexes closed Thursday in the red. And now let's see what's happening in Asia. The markets in Asia, we see the Nikkei today closing at almost 1.5% in the red. The Kospi of South Korea, however, has been able to retain that green color. Hang Seng is 2.48% in the red. Right there. See other parts in Asia, and Shanghai is almost 2% in the red, while India has been able to sustain the green color that it had at this time yesterday. And talking about the market, let's go to Europe now, find out what's happening with investors at intraday. And we have Lars joining us. Hey Lars, good afternoon. What's the color of your market now?
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Ini. It is red here as well, and I'm pretty much adding on to what you just told us about the U.S. markets, because we are also here in Europe looking towards the U.S., and it is not our usual trade problems. It is mostly news from the banking sector there that have investors here worried, because as you just mentioned, Ini, we had these news from some local banks about credit fraud and such, and suddenly, of course, there's a little bit of a fear that there might be another banking crisis. And of course, we know how globally interconnected the banking sector is. Actually, when you just went through the Asian markets here, I hadn't looked at the Asian indices, but I'm pretty sure, looking at the percentages down, that it's also probably mostly coming from bank shares. It is mostly here in Frankfurt. The DAX is down over 1%. We're seeing Deutsche Bank down 7%, Commerzbank down 3%, and then look at some of the other indices. France, Spain, London, whether it's Barclays or Banco Santander, Societe Generale, BNP Paribas, they're all among the biggest losing stocks in their respective markets. So it's all about fear in the banking sector right now.
And moving away from that, I wonder if to call this a glimmer of hope, the proposed meeting between President Donald Trump and President Zelensky about the war going on in Ukraine, which has had a whole lot of impact on the European economy. But apparently they say, even in this seemingly bad circumstance, there are some goods that the economy may or has been enjoying.
Yes, here, let me try to understand. We're coming to the German economy. I had a very bad line right now, but what I would like to tell you about the German economy here is that we have, or the German government here, had rethought really its spending habits on that background of the geopolitical crisis that we are still going through after all these years. And as we often discussed, Ini, you and I discussed it here, we have these 500 billion euro investment packages that the government readied a while ago. One is going into infrastructure and is obviously helping the economy there, but the other one, also worth a whopping 500 billion euros, is intended to strengthen the military, and it's giving the defense department more money to invest in tanks, in jets, in ammunition, in personnel. And this kind of investment obviously being a result here of the geopolitical crisis, but we are seeing that the military spending actually has now an effect that is going far outside and far beyond the classic military sector.
So how do we expect this to affect the general economy?
Well, because we are seeing strong growth in a variety of companies that are, well, sometimes they are closely tied to the defense sector. Sometimes, however, they are very loosely connected only. I can give you a couple of examples here. There is a steel mill in Germany that is now bringing back armored steel in its factories. That's and especially hard steel, of course, that is used mostly to build tanks and other military equipment. But it's also good for some civilian uses, safes, safe doors, armored vehicles, money transport vehicles also. But now for years, armored steel had been a monopoly of a Swedish company, with other companies not even bothering to go into that sector because of little demand. Now demand is back, and it is securing jobs here in Germany, but also even a little bit further from the military industrial sector. There's car makers and car suppliers getting jobs from the military. A company that makes printing system. Another one I read about that is specializing in lasers for industrial manufacturing. They are also getting military orders right now, and it's even affecting the startup sector. One example, the food startup Good Bites is actually focused on building automated store kitchens for customers in order to freshly cook their pasta and their rice meals. But now they're also working on a fully automated field kitchen for the military. And I have actually heard from startup companies that they are saying that when you're looking for investors, even like when you're just looking for capital, anything that ties you to defense right now can be helpful. So we can really see how this investing that the German government does in the military spreads far beyond the sector into the general economy.
Yeah, I guess we just have to look closer. There's always an opportunity everywhere, even when situations do not look so good. Lars, thank you so much for bringing that up.
Thank you, Ine. Have a nice weekend.
You too. Okay, so let's head to the crypto space now and see what the color is at this time. Well, Bitcoin has been receiving a whole lot of profit taking, lashing and being hit everywhere. We didn't see this coming this time yesterday. It lost more than 5%. So you can see the color is really, really red this afternoon. 105,808.88. Who will help Bitcoin now? Where's President Trump when you need him? I guess he's preparing for that meeting with President Putin. Ethereum obviously cannot escape all of this, so it's lost the 4,000 level that we're so proud of. It's now 3,796.16, lost 6.5% in about 24 hours. XRP in the red, TRX, Cardano, everybody, well, every major person is in the red at this time. Well, that's the situation, I guess. It's an opportunity, for perhaps an investor to get on board if you see prospects, positive prospects, opportunity. But let's see what's happening, the headlines. Then we start from our neighboring Ghana in West Africa, where the central bank there plans to introduce crypto regulations by the end of this year after advancing a related bill to the parliament. During an appearance at International Monetary Fund's meetings in Washington, the bank's central bank governor Johnson Asiama said that the regulators had been working on a draft over the past 4 months, and Ghana's central bank first introduced draft guidelines for cryptocurrency back in 2024 after it witnessed a surge in demand. The regulations were originally set to be introduced in September this year. Ghana, like other West African nations, they've confronted economic challenges, pushing residents towards alternative assets such as Bitcoin as a shield against inflation, as detailed by the bank at the time. The growth has been spurred by a tech-savvy population, widespread internet access, and the rise of VASPs. And another story making headlines in the crypto space is Standard Chartered. They've entered the European crypto custody market through a partnership with the crypto exchange OKX, marking another major step in the bank's expansion into the digital assets. Under the collaboration, the bank will provide institutional-grade custody services for OKX clients in Europe, ensuring secure storage and compliance with regional regulations. The move aligns with Standard Chartered's broader strategy to bridge traditional finance and digital assets, following similar ventures in Asia and the Middle East. Industry observers say that the partnership underscores growing institutional confidence in crypto infrastructure amid tightening regulatory standards across Europe. And XRP, which we saw in the red, its activity surged on Thursday by 67%. I guess that has attracted profit taking, and that's why we see it. It wasn't able to escape the red color at this time, joining the big guys in the trend of profit taking. Well, that's it on Business Incorporated. Thank you so much for being a part of it the whole week. We really do appreciate you and appreciate your time. But we'll start the journey again next week when we'll bring you from Monday to Friday updates from the world of business. In the morning, 55 minutes, and then in the afternoon, 25 minutes. So I wish you a great weekend. But don't forget that you can go to our YouTube channel and watch all of the episodes of this week and the past week, and then we'll make the fresh once again next week. I'm John McQuarrie. See you tonight for the stock market reports. Bye-bye.